Welcome to Foundation Friday. The dedication and covenant of silent unity was signed on December 7th, 1892 by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, founders of the Unity movement. It is unlikely when they signed this covenant that they had any idea how far-reaching unity would be as it evolved into the church we know and love today. We invite you to join us as we explore and share some of the original ideas, teachings, and writings of the men and women who created the foundation of the Unity Church.
Hi, thank you for joining us today for Foundation Friday. Today we're going to continue in our backstory adventures, and we are looking into the backstory of Emma Curtis Hopkins. Now, if you have no idea who she is, don't be alarmed. You really haven't missed much. Hopefully, as we go through this today, you'll get a much better idea, maybe not of who she was, but of the way she influenced the great thinkers that created unity that we know and love today. So most of my information here today comes from truthunity.net, and you can find several wonderful articles on Emma, and I invite you to do your own research. Emma Hopkins was born in 1849 and she passed away in 1925. So that kind of gives you the era that we're talking about. Okay, here goes. One way in which New Thought is in debt to Mary Baker Eddy is that certain persons, once they reacted to her authoritarian positiveness, and we're talking about Mary Baker Eddy here, they broke away from Eddy and became teachers of others, who later went on to lead major branches of New Thought. One of them was Emma Curtis Hopkins, who had been the editor of the Christian Science Journal under the direction of Eddy, and who was dismissed in October 1885, reportedly for reading her other metaphysical books besides the ones that Eddy had written. She was an extremely able individual with ideas very much her own and the ability to communicate them to others. She could not accept the role assigned to her by Mrs. Eddy, and so became an independent teacher. And of course, she was known as the teacher of teachers. After her dismissal in Boston, Hopkins moved to Chicago in 1887 and opened what would later be called the Emma Hopkins College of Metaphysical Science. She was called the teacher of teachers because a number of her students went on to found their own churches or to become prominent in the New Thought movement. Among her students, where some we're going to recognize, were Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, founders of the Unity School of Christianity, H. Emily Cady, author of the Unity textbook Lessons in Truth, as well as Francis Lord, Annie Rick Smith, George Eden, Melinda E. Kramer, who's the co-founder of Divine Science, Ella Wheeler Wilcox, who is a great New Thought poet, Elizabeth Town, and considerably later in her career, Ernest Holmes, founder of the Church of Religious Science. Meager formal training of ministers. Braden writes that the seminary declined to have chairs of church history or homiletics or ethics or dogmatic theology, as is usual in theological seminaries, and comments that this set of fundamental characteristics of the whole teaching philosophy of the metaphysical movement in general, one that probably accounts for the meager formal training required by all the groups of those who minister or teach in them. However, Hopkins was way ahead of her time in the freedom offered students in a group activity which the faculty of the seminary became. Her innate teaching quality shows the leadership her teaching quickened in students who established independent movements, now ministering to mankind. In the first graduation ceremony of Emma Hopkins College of Metaphysical Science in 1889, Hopkins graduated a total of 22 individuals, of which 20 were women. According to Gail Harley, she actively assigned women a prominent place in her ministry as ordained pastors, and she taught that the third person of the Trinity was the Holy Mother or Comforter. Harley says that although the concept of Father, Mother, God originated with the Shakers and was used by Eddy, Hopkins was the first religious teacher of her time to break away from the dominant Protestation of the 19th century and create an alternative feminist theology and attract a sizable following for this new theology. Emma Curtis Hopkins was an American spiritual teacher and leader. She was involved in organizing the New Thought movement and was a theologian, teacher, writer, feminist, mystic, and healer who taught and ordained hundreds of people, including, notably, many women. Hopkins was born in Killingly, Connecticut in 1849. She attended the local Congregationalist church and graduated from the local high school before going on to teach secondary school as math, science, and language teacher. She married George Irving Hopkins, another teacher, on July 19, 1874. The couple had one son, John Carver, who was born June 8, 1875, graduated from the Merchant Marine Academy, and died in 1905. Hopkins and her husband were separated in the mid-1880s and divorced in 1900. In 1885, Hopkins became a student of Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science. She studied with Eddy for 2 years and was ordained as a Christian Science practitioner in 1887. However, Hopkins soon became disillusioned with Christian Science and left the movement in 1888. So now perhaps you know who Ms. Hopkins was and why she's so important to us here at Unity today. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Foundation Friday. Have a really great weekend. Namaste.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.